Thank you for joining us on another episode of CYC's For Couples Only. Today's episode is going to be a great conversation start, and we'll see where it goes. The topic is Ask Me First. I'm very blessed to be sitting next to my wife, Sarah Wad.
And with us also, we have the very Reverend Father Antonios from St. Mary and St. Antonios Church in Queens. Father Antonios has counseled hundreds and thousands of couples through their family matters and also has a master's degree in pastoral counseling. Thank you for being with us today, Abuna.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Abuna.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's go right into the program here and take a look at the clip. We'll be back.
Thank you, darling.
You're very welcome.
Oh, guess what? I made plans with Jenny and Sam for Thursday night.
What? What do you mean?
Thursday night at 7, we're gonna have dinner with them.
Just make plans like that without even asking me?
It's not a big deal. Just gonna be dinner for a little while, grab something to eat, and then we'll come home.
Big deal? Of course it's a big deal. This is a marriage. It's a two-way relationship. You just don't go and make decisions on our time, my time, your time to go see people just like that.
I didn't think I had to ask about this little thing.
I can't take this. Sorry I lost.
Okay, I think I actually offset you.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, let's talk.
Okay, so the first thing that upset me is that you making plans without even asking me, because we're a married couple, so we should consult each other before making plans. And actually the second thing, I don't really like this couple. First of all, I don't like the way Jenny looks at me, and I have nothing in common with Sam. We don't have anything to talk about the whole time.
Wow, I had no idea. I guess I assumed because me and them are really close that you automatically love them.
Yeah, but anyway, I'm just happy that we had this conversation.
I'm happy too. So where did you go?
I was just cooling off.
What were you doing while you were cooling off?
Well, I figured I'd have to say a quick prayer before I come back and talk to you, because otherwise this fight would have been a million times worse.
Guess that's good.
Still want to eat?
And we're back.
So that was interesting.
Yeah. A couple of different things there.
There wasn't too much negative to say. Maybe there was in a few regards, but overall I felt like that couple handled things pretty well. So
Yeah, usually there's a clear winner of like who really messed up this time.
Yeah.
But in this time, I think they both did.
they handled
They
things
both,
okay.
made out well.
Yeah.
At the end. But let's break it down. So the first thing that they were talking about was she was excited, the wife, about making plans with Jenny and Sam, I believe the names were. And he was just all like, I'm not into that, and I'm not into that couple. And
It's valid. These are valid issues, but I guess the question is it really a big deal? Is it fair, Abuna? Is it fair for one party from the couple to make plans without consulting the other? I mean, it sounds like a very basic question, but I'm sure it happens all the time where one of the couple, makes plans without consulting the other. Is it the other party's obligation to comply, or what typically should happen in this type of situation?
Very, very interesting and very beautiful question, because sometimes we take some things for granted which are not. And becoming one in marriage, it changes the whole dynamics. When a person is single, he or she can make appointments, do whatever they want to do on their own because they own it. But when they are married, they are committed to each other before they becoming committed to anyone else. So their commitment to each other comes first. So, in other words, you cannot make a decision on your own in the absence of your spouse. You have to be together in it, small or big. And this brings to my memories an example His Grace Bishop Musa told us long time ago. He said they would be having a meeting, and the meeting is supposed to end at 10 p.m. And then the meeting does not end at 10 p.m. So they say, oh, we're going to have to stay more. So all those who are sitting there are servants and youth who are not married. And then he says, but I see a hand coming up. And then he looks at the person, he's a married man. He says, I have to call my wife. And he comments on that. He says, this is the commitment. I cannot just be on my own, and if I'm in a meeting, I'm going to be late. I have to call. I have to let her know that I'm going to be late. This is the commitment. And I think we need to train ourselves in our marriages that we are not on our own anymore. We are committed to each other. And the husband or the wife come first before anyone else. I don't know if this is...
No, that's beautiful.
perfect
Thank you,
sense.
Buna. I mean, I guess it's just the fact that we jump into the issue of making plans with people or doing things that one of the member of the couple doesn't want to do, or hang out with people that they don't want to hang out with. I mean, I'm sure again that this happens a lot, but like, is it fair that one party's always going to have to compromise in this instance, and is it fair that it always has to be the one who doesn't want to do it, that does want to do it? They're the ones that are sacrificing.
In other words, you're talking about the husband that he doesn't want to do it?
Yeah, so in this instance, but in particular, the wife is the one that's going to have to suffer. Suffer might be extreme, but the one that has to sacrifice her wants just because her husband doesn't want to do it, and he doesn't like her friends.
Yeah, I think the issue here was about the name of the episode, Ask Me First, which is the basic thing in marriage. We have to consult. Even, let me say, I met this couple, and they said, oh, we want to meet each other and go out and have dinner or spend time together. And then I would think first of my wife or my husband. So I would say, okay, I'm not sure what we can do, but I'll get back to you. And then we will have the discussion as wife and husband and come up with a resolution, and accordingly we decide what we're going to do. And this didn't happen in this situation. It's kind of like the wife took it for granted that her husband will be okay with it, and then she found out that he was not okay with it. First, because she didn't ask him about it. She didn't even check if he's going to be available that night that they decided to go out or not. And third, that she didn't know how he felt about this couple. And to everyone's surprise, she found out that he's not really comfortable to go out with this couple. Of course, here we can also say something that's very important, that sometimes we don't express how we feel until something like this happens. If the wife knew beforehand that maybe her husband is not so comfortable to be with this couple, she wouldn't have done what she's done. So that's another issue, that maybe there was no transparency between the husband and the wife concerning this couple, and that's very important in marriage, to be transparent.
Right.
We have to see through each other and understand how I'm thinking, how she's thinking, because if we don't do that, a lot of misunderstandings will happen, and such a situation can take place and can cause problems.
So we've worked through the husband not being informed, and the wife was aware of that, and then not liking the friend, the couple, and you mentioned it was to everyone's surprise. That wasn't made clear before, and not asking first, like you said. So then let's take a look at what happens then. Right after that is made clear. The husband trying to, in the way to dealing best with the situation, leaves the conversation. What do you think of that approach in terms of, we're not even talking about what he does when he leaves, which is very positive from what we see.
There could be different choices. You can leave it or lose it. And you better leave it than lose it.
Right.
So if you're upset, you're better off, cool off, okay, try to get out of the situation so that you wouldn't lose it. And actually what he did was very spiritual. Although we were surprised he got up, but he didn't say anything bad. He stood in front of the sink, and then we look at what was up there, and it was these verses about, again, 1 Corinthians 13, about love, how love suffers long, how love is kind, how love does not envy, how love does not parade itself, is not puffed up, does not behave rudely, does not seek its own, is not provoked, thinks no evil, love never fails. So in other words, it was something spiritual that he did. He looked at this verse, and the house, that reminds us that the house is founded on Christ, who is the true love. God is love. So he is the rock, and these are the characteristics of love. And then when he came back, he was asked, what were you doing? And he said, I was praying. And I think this is a very good way to handle these things rather than lose it and take it personally and start to
Escalate it further.
escalate it and through accusations to the other person.
So he gets back after this time of reflection and personal prayer, and also after meditating on that verse, comes back, and what he does is, I feel, as you mentioned, Abuna, very spiritual as an approach to coming to a resolution, and he asks her something interesting. Is this a good time? I feel that is really something insightful to learn from, is that even when he's coming back, we've done episodes before where the husbands don't take a proactive approach in coming to the resolution, but I feel like what he did was ideal. Would you agree? Like in the way he said, is this an appropriate time?
Yes, absolutely.
As the first thing.
Very appropriate and very wise that he made sure that the wife is ready to talk about it and that this is a good time to address it. And he kept his calm. He did not lose his peace, which was a good thing. He prayed, he looked at the verse, he meditated at it, and he prayed, and he came back and he asked, is that a good time? And he asked in a very nice, kind way, no accusations, no blame, nothing, just to talk about it. And I think that made the wife very open to receive this, because he was very kind in the way he did it. He did not play the blame game.
Right.
And that's very important. He kept his love to her and his respect to her. And that made situation much easier to deal with.
I can imagine that situation going way worse. Like if he just stayed there and yelled at her for making these plans and gave her a hard time instead of just stepping away for a second, I think that it could have gone definitely way worse.
Absolutely, and she was apologetic about it.
And her reaction too.
And she said, I didn't know that all these facts, and she was understanding, and she was willing to resolve the situation in a positive way. She didn't take it personally. She didn't say, well, I made a deal, I made a date with them, I cannot go back on my word. She didn't say all these things. She didn't take it personally. She was very objective. And I wish that in our discussions and handling troubles or problems, that we would be always very objective in this. And I want to just mention something that the church reminds us every day in the morning. In the morning prayer, we read a part from the Epistle of St. Paul to the Ephesians, chapter 4. And he says in this part that I beseech, I therefore the prisoner of the Lord, beseech you to walk worthy of the calling with which you were called. And walking worthy of the calling means the following: with all lowliness and gentleness, with long suffering, bearing with one another in love. And I think this, what we have seen in this episode, that the husband and the wife, they dealt with each other in humility, in meekness, and kindness, with patience, and they did not put blame on each other, but they were actually bearing with one another in love. And that's what made the situation, turned it into a very positive thing. And actually you feel kind of relieved that it did not end up in fight, because the love of Christ was there, the respect was there, the understanding was there, the objectivity was there.
You bring up a good point, and one thing about this couple from other couples that we've seen on the show is that I believe that because all couples, I think, in our church, that we encounter, our own couple, like our couples that we deal with on a day-to-day, they all have they want the same goal of living a life, making the house a house that Christ abides in. I don't think you're going to find a couple saying, well, I don't feel that way. I mean, maybe, but not in our community and not people watching. So I agree that their goals are the same, but what makes this couple, I think, a little different, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, is that they both shared the same vision on how to attain that goal of having this house of Christ. So those guards were left down, and it is refreshing to see that in an episode where, you know, there's obviously there's always a disconnect, but I feel like here we've seen a link, and it was just like, oh, these are my two issues. The wife comes back. When the bridge is made to now we can talk about it. Oh, and these are those two issues resolved. And I feel like with what you said and dealing with each other and bearing with one another in love, that sharing that understanding is really what is a game changer. So my question with that said, I mean, if that's what you've seen in this, is that a matter of practice to share the vision, to share like the same goal, because their goals are the same, but how is that a matter of time, a matter of a self-sacrifice from one side or the other, or is it that you got it or you don't, kind of thing?
Actually, again, the presence of God's word in our life, understanding the commandment that we can deal with each other in humility and meekness and kindness and patience, forbearing one another in love, and always trying to keep the unity of the Spirit and the bond of peace. If we keep all these things in our mind, and Christ is really present in the middle, that's how we are going to respond. The will to do it right, the will to keep the love, the bond of love, the will to keep the peace, the will to keep respecting each other and not sacrificing this for any reason. Because sometimes people sacrifice this for the sake of others. How would I look in front of the other people? Or what would the other people say about me? And for this reason, they lose their peace and they might fight with each other. This couple were really wise not to lose it for any reason. And I think this is one of the most beautiful things. We shouldn't sacrifice our relationship in Christ with each other for any reason, no matter what.
I mean, that's an excellent point. But I please forgive me for just having to take I don't know if my question was answered in that particular thing, because I definitely agree. But is that something that they work on? Is that something they have naturally, or is that something that the directions on getting there are in line? Is it like that? I think is like a skill, but I don't know.
Sometimes some people have it naturally.
Right.
Sometimes people have to train themselves to do that. And that's why we ask people to seek help in the beginning of their marriage. We ask them always to come for advice, that we can help them. Not that we're going to interfere in their marriage, but we're going to just help them to know how to interact in a healthy way without hurting each other, without insulting each other. And that's maybe the purpose of such a program that we're having, that couples will learn how to do it right by the grace of God. Again, it's not only human effort, it's the grace of God, it's the presence of Christ in this relationship, it's the work of the Holy Spirit in our lives.
Right.
That would bring this to a good end, that we see how a problem can be resolved through healthy communication with love and respect.
We do our best, God does the rest.
Well, actually, God does everything.
God does everything.
We do our best.
And covers the rest. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Abuna. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
We've definitely learned so much from you today, and we will wrap this episode up, and we'll catch you guys on the next CYC for Couples Only. Thank you.
Thank you, Abuna.